Drivers love speed. It's no surprise that we've gone from Elkhart Lake over to the Ardennes Forest because both locations are notorious for incredibly fast racetracks. Spa-Francorchamps is perhaps among some of the most famous circuits in the world, and the Belgian behemoth demands respect. Will anyone fall afoul of failing to show reverence? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 4 of the PRL GTE Sportscar Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel and the iRacing eSports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Ossian Buhaka. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Talking about Spa is one thing, but half of the wonder and awe of this track is simply the visuals. So maybe it'd be better to just show you why this place continues to inspire. Welcome to Spa-Francorchamps. Less than an hour's drive east from the German border, this Belgian track has come to define racing for many different eras in the sport. It's no wonder it continues to entrance drivers when you look at the stats. The 7 kilometers over the course of a lap includes more than 330 feet in elevation change as it weaves its way through the Ardennes forest. Packed into this is 19 turns, some of which are considered among the most famous in the world of racing. Corners like La Source and Blanchement have been on the lips of drivers for decades. But by far the most notorious is Eau Rouge and Rétillon. Typically referred to in name by just the first section, it dips low and swings left, then compresses and climbs to the right up a massive hill. The sequence ends with a completely blind crest that sweeps to the left and leads onto the incredibly long Kemmel Straight. The bravery required to be fast through there will pay off towards one of the most popular passing spots at Lacombe. Eau Rouge is exemplary of the rest of the circuit though. Most of the turns are incredibly fast and many include much of that signature elevation change. As jaw-dropping as the track is, you have to remember that this is the modern truncated layout. The old one, raced until 1979, was 14 kilometers in length, yet carried an average speed of 150 miles per hour. Present-day safety measures do cut down on the danger, but even in recent history, the circuit has proven deadly. It's clear why this track continues to be revered and respected by racers the world round. You can see what I was talking about with those visuals, and especially here with the sun rising right now, it looks extra pretty in this yellow light. But Ossian, enough about waxing about the beauty of this place. Tell us some of the stats.
Oh, statistics. I love statistics. So, the track length is 7 kilometers or 4.35 miles for the metrically challenged among us, and it has a lot of elevation difference. In fact, the track is 397 meters off the ground. That is about, how much is it? It's about 1,000 feet, thereabouts. And the weather is, as per usual in Belgium, it is quite chilly. It is 18 degrees Celsius, which I believe it is around 65 degrees Fahrenheit. And it also has a fair bit of corners, 19 in total. All of them have unique names, including Turn 11, which was known as the no-name corner by the fans. Drivers call it the speaker's corner, but it is actually known as the curve techniques.
Now, as always, we want to remind you that today's race is brought to you by SIMSA. Simulation Motorsports Affinity provides many consulting services, from completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events. They're working hard to bring organizations, companies, manufacturers, teams, and drivers together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. They're also bridging virtual and real motorsports by providing a network between these two, involving sim racers, real drivers, teams, managers, engineers, and of course, motorsport fans alike. You can find out more about how you can get involved at simsa.net. Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by Butt Kicker. Butt Kicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. The winner of Division 1 here in the PRL GTE Sportscar Series will get a Butt Kicker Gamer 2 or a simulation kit. Also, both drivers of the winning team in the team's championship will get a free t-shirt. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com. Now, we always like to go over to those championships since we're on that topic, so let's take a look at the drivers first. And up at the top, look at how tight it is after 3 rounds. Modoff and Stevens, 3 points between them currently. You have to go back a bit for Rodrigo Mies, who managed to get himself a second place last round, so he is possibly in the mix, but he's got some ground to make up currently. Sean Romig and Stephen Ash in a very tight fight, only 2 points separating fourth and fifth position, so a lot of interesting battles up at the sharp end of the field. Ossian, for those t-shirts though, who's looking good right now?
Everybody wants to get their shirts, but Punto CR Racing Red with Rodrigo Mies and Nicolas Rubilar are in the lead of the team championship with 137 points. In the second place right now, it is Radicals Online with Jesse Stevens and Jason Hudson. On third place, Full Send Racing, and they have Mac Miller and Stephen Ash in their squad. SRT Esport Blue is sitting in fourth place, Jean-Marc Tremblay and Jack Broderick driving for them. And on the fifth position, it is Punto CL Racing Blue with Ignacio Rodriguez Ferdes and Horacio Calguin. So they are looking quite good, are the Punto CL Racing Red guys for the t-shirts, and maybe Rodrigo can wear that in the Chile when he does his Nissan racing again.
That's true. And I can hear Bill Zahn from afar yelling about how they've named all them after colors on the team. So we'll try and get on that for you, Bill. In the meantime, let's talk about this race in particular. Now, we are in round 4 out of 10, and there's a drop week involved in this championship. They can't use it in the final round. There's 4 different makes of cars that are able to be chosen by the drivers. There you see them listed on the screen. And it's a 60-minute race, which will include 1 pit stop for fuel. They are open setups in this series, so these teams have probably been working hard with one another to try and tweak those and get them to their liking, find whatever inch of speed they can find. And they have an incident cap in this series. Now, I know it says a drive-through at 13X. It's actually a stop and go that they will have to serve at those 13 incidents. And then they're actually disqualified if they get 7 more. They are quite literally removed from the track in the simulator, and they will disappear immediately if they hit that 20. And there are bonus points on the line that are listed at the bottom as well. Right now we're watching qualifying, but as always, before we get to that, we want to give a quick reminder that you're watching that qualifying on the iRacing Esports Network. Make sure and subscribe to the channel. Very easy to do so. If you just go below the video in YouTube and you see a button that says subscribe, click it. It'll be bright red, so you can't miss it. Then you won't miss a moment here on GSRC. So, at the top of that qualifying, Rodrigo Mies trying to get himself his first win of the season is currently our provisional pole sitter, and that last lap across was a 2:13.1. Now, granted, that last lap was scored just after the bus stop because this is the endurance layout, Aussie, and so it's going to be a bit unique for our viewers who aren't used to how the start and finish work here.
Yeah, so the endurance layout means that you start actually on the old main straight, on the run down to Rouge, instead of the new main straight. I mean, it's a rolling start, doesn't make much of a difference, but it makes for an interesting start. And even more of an interesting point, in my opinion, is that the drive-through, if someone decides to be naughty with the incident points, and you can beat that at Spa very easily. I've seen horrendous incident counts on the 24-hour event here. If you get a drive-through here, you're gonna be spending roughly 2 to 3 lifetimes on the pit lane before you get out, because it runs all the way from the bus stop to Rouge, to top of Rodilon, actually. And a fun fact, you can do the entire latter bit of the pit lane, provided that your pit stall is on the main straight, proper main straight. You can do the entire latter part with your pit limiter off and just having the clutch on the floor and saving a bit of fuel that way.
Ah, I'm going to tuck that one away in case I actually get to race here again. Meanwhile, looks like Jesse Stevens is not going to let Rodrigo Mies have an easy time about this because he's now taken the pole away. Where is Modov, though? Modov's down in 26, and he's only got 1 time to lap in at a 2:28. And I think I just actually saw him go off. Club West driver is trying to get his paint on the car. We'll see that pop up.
Oh, Mies. He just did a 2:12.8.
And that's going to be 2/10 quicker than Stevens. So drivers getting those tires up to temperature. But Mies actually just took it back into pit lane. So he's going to have to get those tires back up to speed here in the last 5 minutes. And Stevens is just crossing to try and respond, but he does not. He's also going to go back in and see if he can put some fresh ones on.
Yeah, and this is the time to do it. This is the time to do it because they have now done about 9.5 minutes in this qualifying session, and then they have about 5 minutes left. So a couple of good laps to put in a little bit less fuel, maybe make some last minute adjustments. And meanwhile, Modov has taken back what is his and went to the pole position. 2:12.6, and unlike the other guys, you know what? He's not stopping just yet. He's gonna keep going for yet another lap and see if he can improve even further from that. But that's 2/10 faster than Rodrigo Mies. That's 4/10 faster than Michael M. Ross and Jesse Stevens, who are actually, at least in my live timing, are sharing the same time to the thousandths of a second. Now just we need another guy, and then we have a Jerez 97 show.
Exactly. But they actually get bumped down a little bit because it looks like Justin Rain has just gotten himself into third inside of that second row. Meanwhile, we've headed over to Fredes, who is down in ninth. And let's see if he can go any quicker than that 2:13.5. As he crosses the line, it's going to not count. So he must have had him off track. Looking at Romig, who's on a bit of a slow lap, so we're going to watch there from the nose for a moment as he came out of the bus stop. Now, for those who have been following this season, you may remember that we've got the new rule this season with the orange zone on the first lap. For those not familiar, the orange zone is to keep drivers driving safe at the start of the race so that nobody's doing anything silly and causing big wrecks. If they do cause one, the stewards will take an extra eye and comb through that to see if you deserve a little bit of the ban hammer. But this time it is going to be going from that start-finish line that is down the run to Eau Rouge from La Source, and then it goes all the way to Malmedy, just after Lacombe. So they can't get away from it even once they get onto the Kimmel Straight. They do have to try and play it safe into that very popular passing spot when they come up to it on lap one. This is Modov coming around yet again. Let's see what he's got. Well, nothing, because he's going to come to a halt.
Yeah, he's not gonna improve. He's not gonna improve, and well, that means we got a couple of more guys who are actually starting their final rushes. Modov probably feeling a little bit anxious on that pole position right now. He's not quite safe yet. He knows that those guys behind him, Mies, Ream, Ross, and especially Stevens, must have a couple of more tenths in them. You know, they say everyone has a couple of more tenths in them. The great drivers have half a second. And then drivers like Senna, well, they had over a second, but that's a different matter. We'll have to see if guys like Mies, like Rem, like Ross, like Stevens can actually improve on their second run. And I would put the cameras on Rodrigo Mies right now. Car number 88. He is on a flyer here. And he is running through the back section of track with what look to me like very neat lines. But of course, very neat lines are usually about 1 centimeter away from an off-track here at Spa-Francorchamps.
Watching Mies now, and it's like he's just heading towards Blanchimont. He's actually towing along Horatio Calpin, who's sitting in 11th, so could be giving a little bit of help to the car behind. The big difference, though, between here and what we saw at Road America, though, is I feel like a lot of these straights, especially like we see here coming up to the bus stop, are kind of punctuated with sort of corners. So is it going to be more difficult to use the draft around here?
Yes and no. You have to be fast in the corners to stay in someone's toe, and here comes Mies over the line, and that's not going to be enough, but he's going to improve on his second lap, I'm sure. And meanwhile, but back to your point, yes and no, because the Kimmel Straight is uphill. So you can follow someone very easily in the draft, especially if you get a good exit off here. Rouge, Radillon, you can get a very good exit off here, and then you can just follow in someone's toe the entire uphill. But the other parts, you need to be fast through Lacombe, through Malmedy, through Rivage, all those bits, Pujon, and so on, before you get to the next proper drafting zone, which is the back straight, and even that has Blanchimont in it. So, you know, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. Yes, you can get a bit of draft advantage in the Camel Straight, but you also will lose time in the dirty air in the back section. Now the good thing for these drivers is that the dirty air with these GTE cars is nothing like it's in the open wheelers, but it still has an effect. It still has an effect. It is just a very very minor one.
As to see Justin Rame coming across the line, and he's not going to be able to get onto that front row. He'll have one last chance. No, he won't, because actually he's pulling off as well. So, number of drivers not willing to take that lap as Carl Modoff is going to be very tight to the line. Is he going to get one more if he wants it?
Doesn't count. And Fredes is just gonna miss it by I think 1 second, 2 seconds.
Yep, and that's going to be his last lap. He'll stay in ninth as he did not improve. Romig abandons his final lap. There's that pit entry we were talking about. Lowendick is not going to take it. He's in 22nd, a 2:14.5. Is it going to improve? Yes, by about a tenth, and that'll put him up one position.
And Mr. Me seeks that pole still, and let's see if Rodrigo can do it. He's coming up to the bus stop. The final corner cuts it very neatly, even a bit conservatively. He had about a centimeter to that curb there, and let's see if he can improve. Oh, 212.7. He does improve, but not enough to take the pole. However, a nice try to the man from Chile.
Rubelar up to 6 with a 2:13.1. Brett Thurman also finishes his. I see Christian Eisler getting ready to come across and take the checkers, a 2:13.3, and that does not bump him up the track, unfortunately, up the scoring tower, because he'll stay in 8th. It's always got to be frustrating when you know you've done better, but it's not enough.
Pfeffer too is still on a flying lap here. He is currently sitting 11th, is Christopher, with a 13.5. He has a lot of drivers bunched up very close in front of him. He can make it to the top 10 just by improving 3,000ths of a second. Let's see if he can do it. Yes, he can. Jumps up to 9.
And Ash actually just went to 4th. He was just ahead of him. So a nice job by Steven in the number 11 to really get himself into the mix. Looks like the last few are coming through, and Russo will be the final car. He's sitting in 16th. Is this any better? No, it is not. So he'll stay there. That means our grid is set for today. Let's go through our starting order and run you down how things will look at the green flag. Carl Modoff will be on the pole, and Rodrigo Mies will be next to him, still looking for that first victory of this season. Justin Rame starts in 3rd with Stephen Ash in the 4th position. Row 3 has Michael Ross to the inside, and Jesse Stevens, who held the pole for a little bit, has suddenly found himself in 6th place. He's got some work to do. Nicholas Rubelar will be starting in 7th with Christian Eisler in P8. Christopher Pfeffer will be 9th, and Horatio Calquin rounds out your top 10.
It is Ignacio Rodriguez Fredes, and yes, I'm saying his full name. In 11th place, Jean-Marc Tremblay. 12th, Sean Romick. 13th, Brandon Wilson. 14th, Andres Espinosa. 15th, Rafael Rousseau. 16th, Matt Miller. Only in 17th place, and David Duino, well, I'm not sure he'll be dancing about the 18th place. Jason Hudson, 19th, and Ken Huber rounding out your top 20.
21st goes to Ted Lowendick with Brett Thurman next to him in 22nd. Kyle Strykars on his final lap was able to improve and wound up in 23rd. Luis Pound Jr. was 24th, and James LeBlanc is 25th. Kenny Rodriguez starts P26 with Sean Duhamel behind him in 27th position. Then to his right, it'll be Jay Steffi in 28th. Dave Peterson starts 29th, and Lawson Christie in 30th. We also have Don Olson and James Hebb have signed up, and I do see that everybody is in the session. So I believe we will get all 32 cars that we'll take to the grid as far as we can tell. This should be a fun one. This is a driver favorite, this track. And much like Road America, it tends to put on an interesting show, sometimes unpredictable, depending on how that slipstream will work out there. Already they're lining up behind the pace car. We'll get a short pace lap, and then we go racing for 60 minutes.
Yeah, and it is going to be a full hour of action here. This is not going to be such a hard track for tires. Remember Lime Rock Park Show? When I think it was actually our pole sitter Karmodov, who blew a tire in Lamrock Park. Well, that's not gonna happen here, but you're gonna still see a lot of understeer in the latter portions of this race. You're also gonna see close battles that are gonna, the field is gonna spread out a fair bit in the start, I feel like. If they're being smart, the leaders are not gonna battle themselves too much in the Camel Straight on the early laps. They're just gonna build up a gap. But then later on, these races with the GT cars, they tend to age like fine wine. And I feel like we're gonna have some Road America-esque finishes here, where it's gonna come right down to the line on who actually takes it. And the thing I like about Spa is that in here, you can race all the way to the last corner, so you have a real possibility of a last corner pass for the win.
That should be some fun to see if we get tight finishes down there come the end of 60 minutes as we wait for the last of the cars to grid up. I think Brandon Wilson is just the last one that we need to plop into his spot, and we're going to take off just before the Longchamp corner, that fast left-hander. But now I see that Rodrigo Mies seems to have left his stall, and I'm checking to see, I don't see any disconnect on his end. This is not good because he was set to start on the front row, and yes, he's going to miss it. Rodrigo Mies does not seem to be able to grid. This is horrible news for him.
Well, his connection is playing a bit of a higher ping than normal, but aside from that, I don't see any reason why he will be missing the race. But that, of course, elevates Stephen Ash to the front row.
Mies is now in pit lane. He's made it to pit lane, so he is going to take the start, but he's going to be all the way at the back of the field because he won't be released until they go by that pit exit. So, horrible turn of events for fans of Rodrigo Mies. Meanwhile, the pace car now ducks in, and they've given a wide berth back to him. Now, I don't believe they will be going until they get out of the source.
Correct.
Double check on that. Yeah, I think they were given instructions on that.
Correct. They will be accelerating out of the source and then on towards Rouge with their foot on the throttle. So we have a bit of time to wait. A quick point on Rodrigo Mies. I wonder if it was a technical issue. Oh, they're going actually here.
Oh, and it's causing a bit of a 3 wide down into La Source, and this is going to get complicated if people try and make passes. Already the third through fourth very tight in there. Everybody behind them seems to be relatively calm. Green flag now finally waves, and they are spreading out on their way down into Eau Rouge. Top 5, top 6, already single file. Looks like everybody's trying to play it smart here through this famous turn.
Indeed, and they have to because it's an orange zone, so the stewards are gonna keep a close eye on them. However, I wonder if Jesse T. Stevens, it's gonna be Justin Rem actually, making a move for the lead on Karmodov and getting through.
Change for the top spot. He almost overshoots the corner on his way into Lacombe. Look at how tight it is between the top 4, though. There is just nothing between them. And Modoff gets a great run out of Malmedy, but he's not willing to risk it down in as we got a car ducking out. I think more an evasive action. I think that's maybe Jesse Stevens. Yeah, almost got into Stevens. The back of Ash there.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you there, but Stevens locked up his brakes going into the corner, and that's why he had to make an evasive action. It was a really close call, but he managed to keep the car under control, and that means he didn't hit anyone, he's still in the race, and we still have a tight top 4.
Rubelar's in a hurry because he shoved Michael Ross out of the way into Pouhon. So that is going to move Rubelar up into P5 now. Clearly there's some drivers who are willing to be aggressive at the start. So they get ready to come through Stavilo. And it's going to be another fast blast. And a little bit of dirt getting kicked up through some of these corners. The drivers already playing to the edges.
Mies is in the wall on a breaking down to Rivage. He tried to break very late and sideways and into the wall. So that's going to be the end of the man who was propped up to start in P number 2.
Wonder if he just had cold tires and wasn't ready for it. But yeah, that is just a miserable way for things to go. His third place is going to change hands. Stephen Ash being overtaken by Stevens. So that gets him up there. Behind them, a lot of changes in the mid-pack as Tremblay and Wilson seem to be swapping back and forth in the braking zone. But they've now completed lap 1. Rame is your leader, chased by Karmodov. Stevens up to 3rd, and Ash into 4th.
Yeah, and on the 5th place it's Nicolas Rubilar and Michael Ambrose right behind him in
Ooh,
that
big wreck.
beautiful matte black Ford. Yeah. Big
Wilson, who's falling down the order, 23rd, it looks like, is where he's going to settle out. A couple other cars off the track with him. And I think it started from Wilson getting hit by Tremblay into this corner. Get another look here as we just caught it right there. Unfortunately, not only does he get hit by Tremblay, but it's another driver. I'm trying to see who that is that gets into him in that black and red car.
Yeah, I think that was Brandon Wills. No, there was another driver who was involved with that. That was Fredes. That was Fredes actually who got through the wreck pretty nicely. So he was okay. And back up front, we still have a battle.
Yep, it's still about half a second between our top four. Each of them is starting to try and pull away from Rubilar, but he's not letting them get away quite yet. You can see him back in the background. He is in the blue and red BMW giving chase. Head through what I am told is called Pith Path, but I've always seen it labeled as Fangies, so take your pick on which that corner is called. We're riding with Rubilar now.
Yeah, we are with Rubilar, and also Rafael Russo is your answer to the other car that was involved in the first corner incident. And Rubilar, he is ahead of Michael Ambrose and catching up to that leading pack fairly quickly. Now I wonder how Justin Ram's pace is compared to Carmodo. Is he gonna hold him back? He was very fast in qualifying, but I wonder if he's gonna hold Carmodo back in race conditions. And I wonder what Jesse will have in his mind. Because the battling between these four guys, I always say, you know, if you want to battle, make sure the battle pack is only going to increase over time.
Absolutely, and it doesn't seem like he's able to get away from Modoc quite yet, but Carl doesn't really look like he's making many moves or is certainly interested in trying to get away. Meanwhile, let's hop back to Ted Lowendick in 21st because we got a nice little battle here in the mid-pack. Kenny Rodriguez is side by side with him, and Rodriguez going to get it through La Source. Managed to take P20 away.
It's interesting he decided to pass into La Source. I wonder if Levendick is going to have him back on the Campbell straight there. He's going to have a big draft if he nails it, and let's see it actually. Ted Levendick, he's going to come back to the outside, and we're going to be defending Kenny Rodriguez. He looked to the inside to Ted, but saw nothing there, saw no clear daylight, only darkness, and Ted's gonna come back to the outside into Lacombe and gonna pull a nice move indeed, and LeBlanc was gonna meanwhile have a battle behind them with Chase Steffi as well, so we almost fought two battles there, I think, in the same picture, so that was well played actually by Ted Levendick, and I wonder if that taught Kenny Rodriguez a lesson or two about passing into La Source.
Yeah, that really kicked off a chain reaction behind them. Steffi then suddenly backed up Duhamel, who got overtaken by Espinoza, which I think Espinoza's not done yet. Look back there, because he's now trying to get by Jay Steffi as well. This is for 23rd between them. Clearly, Andre has some pace underneath him, and I guess to explain that, he qualified 15th. I'm not sure why he's down here. Oh, he was the one that was involved in that wreck in La Source, was he not?
Yeah, I think he was one of those guys involved in that one. Rafael Russo was another one involved as well, and Espinoza got mighty close on the braking indeed, and that's going to be an obstacle for him. He went so wide on the exit, and you have to be careful about those. You can't be too naughty about the track limits. Remember, comply to track limits. You only got 13 of them to use for 1 hour at Spa, and that is much more of a strict limit than it sounds like at first. And that's going to be a race gun if you take that penalty. Espinoza's going to try into Baskop, I'm sure of it here. No, he actually doesn't. And the reason is that the car ahead, Chase Steffi, braked himself way wide, and Espinoza's going to have a double crossover. But remember, passing into La Source, choke, perhaps not always the greatest of ideas, especially as the guy on the inside is going to defend it.
Oh, he's squeezing him over a little bit. Steffi is going to have to take a very, very shallow line in there. So there's another crossover. Espinoza getting that green and black car up side by side with the yellow and white machine of Steffi. And by the time they get into Eau Rouge, He's going to be ahead, but here we go. This is where you were talking about playing it strategically. If he gets the launch, he could maybe streak away. I think Espinosa's done it, actually.
Yeah, he's done it because he made a pass coming down the hill. That means that Chase definitely wasn't able to get the full run. And I don't think Chase quite as fast in the corners either.
Sorry,
Espinosa's
Rubelar is off. One of our major players up at the front just went off track. Now, did he have help here? I think it may have been a little bit of netco between himself and Stephen Ash.
Yeah, I'm gonna look into it. Let's see what happened here. Coming down in the Rivage, so yeah, there was just a little bit of code, but there was also a mighty block from Rubelar. He, when he went into the corner, he turned a little bit to the right on the braking, and you don't want to change your line. So of course Stephen Ash is going straight because the corner hasn't started yet, and as a result they had a fairly innocuous contact that however led to Rubelar spinning off, taking half a spin and losing a couple of positions. He's now behind that train of blue and red, navy and red Punto CL racing cars.
Yeah, at least he's around friends right now, as they've all kind of found each other, and Ash has got himself into four with that. Oh.
Yeah, Modok was looking into bus stop and caused Justin Rem to brake a little bit late. And as a result of that, he has a great run once again onto the main straight here, Joe.
Now, what's fascinating about that is I watched that same spot last lap, and Modok did the exact same thing. He took a peek, but then didn't make a serious attempt. So I really do think that Carl is content to ride right now. I have to suspect that he's probably saving a little bit of fuel. They're bringing Stevens along, and they've now got Ash a good gap back, about 2 seconds. You can see the gap there on screen, and he is not a threat at the time being.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what happens here on the back straight. Will he just lift? Let's see. Let's actually listen in here. Will Modok lift?
He's looking. Oh, he's going to prove me wrong. He's going to go for it. Down into the inside, and no defense from Justin Rame. He lets him through, so Carl Modok back to the top spot after losing it early in the race.
And let's see if Steve is going to do the same thing, because these guys are championship rivals, remember. Carl Modok and Jesse Stevens, we've seen them having some heated battles last time by in Road America earlier on, and Stevens is gonna spin in there. Oh, he's lost it, and he hit the back end into the wall because he wasn't on the brakes early enough. Oh! Do not ever do that, just for the viewers. You have to wait for the cars to come by safely.
Well, but, Punto CL team got an eyeful there. I wonder if we could see that from, I think it was Cal Quinn leading the train at the time. He actually switched spots with Eisler immediately after they went by him.
And we're going to see an on-board of it coming to the corner. You can see it's a blind entry. You can't see anything until a car comes by. And Cal Quinn had to make an evasive maneuver here. But well done for him to apply the brakes, see the yellow flags, and actually abiding them for once. Not a knock on Cal Quinn, I should clarify. A knock off racing drivers in general.
Well, and they're going to switch around yet again because it looks like Rubelar now ahead of Cal Quinn. Unless Cal Quinn's got an issue here, that's now 2 positions. Fredes is very close behind him, so what's going on with the Punto CL guys?
Typical Punto CL stuff. They're just gonna, find out about their order right now, and they should find out about it quick. However, I think they realize that I think Jesse Stevens is one of those guys who's gonna have to really make a move here, and he does into Losaurus, for Sean Romig, and I don't think Sean's gonna come back either onto Camel Straight because Jesse has a graph for the cars in front. But yeah, with the Punto CL guys, that's a really curious question. They were playing some team games in Road America, and it seems like they're content running together even here.
I have a theory about this, and this takes me back to my cross-country days. We used to do an exercise in which we would run in a pack like that, and the person in the front would go to the very back, and the person in second would then set the pace, and so on and so forth. I wonder if they're doing that except to try and save fuel so that they keep swapping and save fuel. Meanwhile, behind them, it is very exciting between Stevens, Romig, Guino, and Pfeffer. Stevens, we thought, would be able to get away with things, but Looks like Romig's got him still fighting for it. Pfeffer, in the meantime, is able to get by Duino, so that moves Christopher into 11th.
Yeah, an interesting part about Stevens, I wonder if he has a bit of damage from that contact with the wall, because when he came to the end of the back straight, Kemmel straight, he was doing 255 barely. Eisler, with absolutely no draft, nobody in front of him, and remember, Stevens had cars in front of him, was doing 257, granted in a Ford GTE, but still he was doing faster than Stevens even with a draft, so Stevens was absolutely stalling out on the straight. He's getting away from Romig in the corner, sure, but Romig on a straight line, he was absolutely entitled to go for that because he saw that, oh, this guy's not going anywhere.
I don't see any damage from these camera angles on the back of the car, so I think he is fine.
Yeah.
If he is, it's very, very minor damage. Now, up at the front, Modov, with less than a lap ahead of Rame, has already pulled away to 1.5 seconds in front of him. I think Karl Modov knew he had the pace this whole time.
Yeah, and he was looking for first couple of laps, trying to save maybe a little bit of fuel, but also gauging his time, seeing if Justin Rame has the pace. That's the thing that drivers do a lot of. They gauge if you have the pace, they see what lap times you're doing, they see if they can truly be faster, wait for a couple of laps. Because again, Karl Modov is multi-time champion. He's a driver who has the experience, has the skill to gauge a pace, to know that it's a 1 hour race, there's no point going for a move lap 1. Meanwhile, behind them, Michael M. Ross and Stephen Ash switch positions, and Ash is actually going to lift and give Ross that one fairly easily.
I get the feeling that these two may be working together to try and keep up with Rame and Modov, because Ross did not fight that, or excuse me, Ash did not fight that at all.
No, and it is very smart to do at this point as well, you know. You don't want to fight at this point. You're seeing that the leading duo is ahead of you, and probably they're not aiming for Karl Modov right now, they're aiming for Justin Rame. And the reason for that is that Justin Rame last time by the 214.0. Stephen Ash did around the same lap time behind him, but working together, Michael M. Ross to 13.5. If Michael M. Ross and Stephen Ash can change positions each and every time on the end of those long straights, they're gonna gain a couple of tenths of a second just due to the drop. So if they do it well, working together, it's not gonna have as big of an effect as in places like Monza, but it's certainly gonna have an effect. And over 1 hour, that's definitely enough to catch a gap of 2.5 seconds.
So we're coming up to one of those fast sections now as we ride on board, or rode on board with Stephen Ash and up through Blanchimont. Don't think he's going to have enough slipstream to swap around here. And yeah, certainly well too far back to try and change positions. Going to have to wait for the end of the Kemmel Straight once again. We'll get an idea of what their pace is like this lap by a 2:13.5 last time for Ross. And that was his quickest of the race so far. This time across the line, it's a 2:13.9, so actually about half a second slower.
Still faster than the guy ahead of Justin Rame, 2:14.0, but I'm imagining here we're gonna see another position change potentially. Of course, in a situation like this, it's gonna be very important to trust the driver you're actually pairing with. You're gonna have to trust that they have the pace once they let you pass them, and you're gonna also have a sort of an onboarded deal that, hey, you're gonna make the pass easy, right? We don't want to lose any time, right? But it looks like to me that Ash is not close enough to make a move here to the inside, so he's gonna lift instead and let Michael M. Ross take it away with the P number 3 right now. And Michael M. Ross, remember, he hasn't been too often in the top 3. Usually he's been a driver show that we've seen rising up to the ranks in the races, improving his position throughout the race, starting from well outside top 3, top 10 rather. Now he started in P number 5, he's already in P number 3, and I wonder what Michael M. Ross's race is gonna look like this time.
Yeah, he could be one that sneaks his way into the podium once again. As we hop back down to the battle for fifth, sort of battle. Not sure if Eisler and Rubelar are actually fighting. Rubelar a little bit out of position since he was higher up than this before. We ride on board with Nicholas, watching the Iceman.
Yeah, and well, You know what we said last week? Will he provide an Iceman-like performance at Spa? Well, maybe, but so far his pace isn't quite here. He said it's one of his favorite tracks, and honestly Spa is often mentioned as one of the driver's tracks, the true driver's tracks in the calendar of any calendar really, that just wants this fabulous circuit. But this time I swear he doesn't quite have the pace to match up to Michael Ambrose or the likes of Stephen Ash and so on in front of him, and that's a bit of a disappointment to me actually, because I was wondering if Iser could bring the fight to the likes of Jesse Stevens and Karl Modov in front in terms of pure pace, but instead he's kinda stuck in a bit of a no man's land, I must say, along with his teammates behind him.
And sorry, that was Rubelar, who we saw going very, very wide at the bus stop chicane. Christian Eisler able to gap him because of that little mistake. Rubelar instead in the clutches of his teammates. A little bit farther down, things somewhat interesting in the mid-pack. Jason Hodgson, who we haven't talked about yet, is being chased by Brett Thurman and Mac Miller. This is almost literally in the middle of the field, considering we've still got about 30 drivers still out there running. And as they come up the Kimmel straight, Hodgson, though, he's given a toe to Thurman. Thurman is not pulling up behind him as quickly as he probably would like, so they're going to stay in position.
Behind him, Levendick and Tremblay are actually gonna switch positions here. Levendick gonna come down to the inside, braking very late indeed, and Tremblay no choice but to give him some room there. So that's some Porsche and BMW action, and that is a position change for the 17th. So we didn't maybe see a pass for the position P number 14, but we saw one for 17. But going back to the 14th place battle show, interesting point here, a Ferrari and two Porsches. And the Ferrari so far looks quite good in front of that pack, but he has a lot of pressure in form of Brett Thurman and Mac Miller. And Mac Miller, I must say, once again, as I said in qualifying, surprisingly far down so far.
Well, Thurman is surprisingly far up right now, because that 15th place is up from 22nd, by the way. So 7 positions in 20 minutes is no small feat. He's continuing to try and make it 8 with Hodgson. He's going to have to work a little bit harder than this. And actually, he's got Mac Miller very, very close behind. Look in that rear view screen as he starts to fill it up almost entirely.
Yeah, Mac Miller, he can be a big boy. It may not be a BMW quite that he's piloting, but he's making it big like one. Unfortunately, losing a bit of time to Blanchimont, that means there's not going to be a chance into the bus stop chicane. He just waits and ensures that he gets a good run up the hill. But remember, this is not quite as much of a slam dunk as it usually is going into Kennel Straight, because the guy ahead of him, Brett Thurman, he has draft too. So when you are in a draft pack, you have to just watch for the mistakes for the car in front, and you can't really go for gaps that they don't expect, because Brett Thurman is now looking ahead and he's also looking behind on the straight. So you can't just surprise a guy without him being, you know, at least a little bit knowledgeable about you coming there, because if you go for a surprise dive at the last second, the guy in front, he may not even look at his mirrors, and that's gonna be an accident.
Thurman closes in, but he's tantalizingly close and just can't quite do anything with it. And now I think he may have had an issue with Fredes. Ooh, yeah, if we want to get a replay, about 40 to 50 seconds ago, he had big contact. And guess who it was with? Jesse Stevens is having a bit of a miserable day today. In his haste to get back into things, looks like he's going to shove him off a little bit here.
Yeah, let's see, he went very late in the corner. No. I mean, he was braking too late into the corner and he wasn't committing to the inside line. He just drove through the middle, and it looked to me like Jesse just miscalculated the width of his BMW, which is considerable, by the way. I mean, if you've seen all the memes, you would know that by now, but yeah, that car is a wide boy, and he just, you know, braked in way too late into the corner and just practically shoved Fredes off his way. Meanwhile, for P number 3, we have a good battle here, Michael Ambrose and Stephen Ash. And Stephen Ash still not able to quite get through here, but he has stayed right up to Michael Ambrose, and they are still catching Justin Rem. Let's see the newest lap times. Rem 2:13.9, Michael Ambrose losing half a tenth this time by, but I don't see any reason for these guys to battle just yet because they are slowly but surely catching up to P2.
It certainly doesn't seem like Ash is much quicker than Ross, even if he is, so he probably is rather content to just sit here for the time being. They've been helping one another out, and Ash is also probably able to save a little bit if he's finding himself lifting a little early in some of these corners, staying behind that Ford. You see them coming up. Let's listen to see if he does lift a little bit here to him. Doesn't look too drastic, so if he is, it's incredibly small. We might have our first taker for pit stops, for scheduled stops. Jean-Marc Tremblay is heading the long, long way down, and he's already past what Bill Zahn likes to call the Ronald McDonald order box there, the McDonald's ordering station, the drive-through.
That is such an American reference. Did you actually know, speaking of McDonald's, did you actually know that French fries come from Belgium?
I did know that, actually. Frites or something? I don't know how they pronounce them, but I've seen it spelled.
Yeah, don't ask me about French language.
Okay.
I'm Finnish, not French. We may be next to each other in the alphabetical listing of countries, but that doesn't mean our language is anything alike.
I also know that they put mayo on them instead of ketchup, so we've got it all wrong here in the States. Meanwhile, back to this battle on screen. Looking at Romig, who we saw earlier was in a nice little fight, and he hasn't been able to get away from it. That's still Duino up ahead of him. And then back there, I don't think he's been a factor in this before. Ken Huber sitting in 13th is closed in.
Yeah, and earlier on this lap we missed it on cameras. David Duino actually got past Sean Romig at the end of the Camel Straight. Typical pass, really. Romig tried to fight it a little bit. And Duino, I think he's been trying to run away a little bit. Started 18th in this race, is now in 11th place. He's been trying to run away this lap, but he hasn't been able to form enough of a gap to Romig behind him to really prevent Romig from getting a run onto Camel Straight. So we're gonna have to wait and see if Romig's gonna really, get a good run going once again, if they're gonna swap positions. But just as I was saying that, Duino really stepped on the throttle on the main straight here, and it's gonna be very close. It's gonna be very tight and depend on what Romig can do to Rouge and Rodilon to get that one. But so far to me it looks like the Ford GD is just hammering away from the cars. Look how fast the car goes.
I've always been partial to that Ford GT. But what I find interesting is that we talked about that there should be good opportunities for racing. I kind of wonder about your comment about the wake earlier. It seems like maybe cars are struggling with that because there's a lot of stalemates that have been forming in these little groups like this.
Yeah, they are struggling. I mean, dirty air, even if not that big, these cars have some aerodynamics. There's that huge diffuser under the car. Then you got the huge wing. All of that is gonna produce dirty air, especially the wing. And behind them there is also a good battle between Hodgson, Thurman and Mac Miller for 14th to 16th, so that's something to be taken into consideration as well.
They haven't changed spots since we last looked, but Brett Thurman was way wide in the middle of Wuhan. Slows him up a little bit. He knows it. He stays slightly defensive as they now come down into Fanyes, and Miller is not able to really affect the pass out of that. So as they come out of that chicane, once again, Thurman very late to move himself over. So he seems to feel threatened, and it is starting to lose him some time on Hodgson.
He's also missing apexes. That's not something a racing driver usually does, but he's missing apexes. I was watching him as soon as we mentioned that, and I don't think he hit a single apex on the middle portion of the track. That's harsh, I know. But that's something, he's leaving a bit of a gap to the edge of the track once again. He's not confident enough to go to the curb at the exit of Blanchimont. So he's, taking it a little bit steady maybe struggling with the wake. Maybe he just doesn't want to force the car to turn in. But he doesn't, to me, look as strong line-wise as he is looking pace-wise, so I really wonder where this pace is coming from. Is the straight lines? Does he have less wing than his opponents? What's enabling him so far to stay in that 15th position?
See if he gets a shot here down the straight to maybe make it one better than the 15th position. He's trying to close in. If he can get the shot off of Radion, this could give him a good chance into the pool. They come up the hill in towards the braking zone. Defensive move from Hodgson. So he seems to be a little bit worried about it. Thurman closes in, and he's actually going to get a little bit of an overlap, but then he has to shut the door behind him because Mac Miller closed in very, very fast.
Yeah, and Mac Miller was getting a good run, but to answer your question, Mac Miller, okay, he wasn't quite as close as Thurman was ahead, but I'm just going to look at the speeds as they come through that marker here. 261 for Thurman and 262 for Mac Miller, so it's not like Thurman has less wing or anything. Mac Miller seems to be running about the same parameters, so it's purely down on driver skill and driver exits, at least on those straights. And LeBlanc just wrecked also, so that's gonna be one thing to mention at this point. So James LeBlanc
per incident. Yeah, here it is, right here.
Coming into Lacombe, he just came into the corner and he lost the back end of it turning in, and the reason for that is, I don't know, he seemed to brake a little bit hard, then he just let go of the brakes and just slid lazily towards the wall. I think he got a little bit of help from Luis Prime Jr. as well, but Luis not at fault here at all. You know, the car was already gone at that point, and LeBlanc did a good job of minimizing the impact, returning to the track in relative safety, as safely as you can with cars braking from 250 kph to nearly 100.
So we haven't shown him in a minute because, well, once he got up to the front, there's been no challenge for Karl Modoff. Justin Rame, who is about 2.7 seconds behind, is simply rifling off the laps. Now, the car you might see in the background behind Rame is actually not for position. That's a lapped car. It's a ways back before you get back to Michael Ross in third. So top two have got themselves a little bit of space, and they've just been running calmly. Can't quite say the same back here, at least not all the time, even though it is a C of PL, a CL Punto. I have those letters wrong. Nick Rubelar is at the front of it, and Christian Eisler and Cal Quinn are following. But now, with one of their drivers having disappeared, they might be a little bit nervous seeing Stevens in the mirror.
Yeah, especially seeing Jesse Stevens, you know, he likes to get feisty. He is fast, but he also likes to get feisty. That's one of those things that this man very much likes to do. So Cal Quinn is gonna have to be extra careful here about Jesse Stevens and see if Jesse's gonna pull up a funny one on him. But Cal Quinn so far so good, playing the rear gunner on this CL Punto train. Of course, that's what they say in Fiat Factory too. They have a C of Puntos as well. Or Puntos.
Here we go. Good run. Great run out of Stavolo there for Jesse Stevens. Cal Quinn is giving him a tow, but he's going to have to stay in that wake through one of the fastest corners on the circuit here through Blanchimont. If he can stay close enough, he could have a chance to pass, but I think he lost just about half a foot on him, and that's all that it takes to keep him from trying to send one in.
Oh, and he's gonna come to the pit lane, and I think Stevens was looking into it as well. Stevens was going towards the lane too, and last second decided to, you know what, I don't fancy that, but Cal Quinn went to the pit lane, and that means Stevens is gonna gain a position, but that also means that a lot of these drivers are starting to head towards the lane right now. I don't think Cal Quinn fancied that battle too much, actually.
Yeah, I think he felt it was better to just get away from him. Brett Thurman also pitting and still trying to get his way to the La Source hairpin. Yeah, that looked like a response, a straight-up response from Jesse Stevens, that when he saw that he was pitting, he had to bail out of that maneuver, because that is not the normal line through the bus stop chicane. While follow Cal Quinn down the hill. This is where you were saying, right, you could just put on the clutch and just kind of ride?
Yeah, yeah, and what you do is you put your speed limiter off and then you just ride and you tap the brakes ever so slightly every now and then to keep the speed, of course, under the speed limit, which is 60 kph, which is around 35 miles an hour.
And then now coming to his stall, that Porsche finds it. Kenny Rodriguez also taking a stop from the back of the field. And we mentioned Tremblay had a pit stop earlier. He got back out in 29th. I think he was the one I was talking about earlier who was a lap down.
Yeah,
in returns. So Kyle Quinn back out in 25th, and he was, what, about 7th? Yeah, he was 7th place before he came in. That tells you how much you lose from a stop.
And Hodgson and Streikarts are battling very hard right now. And it seems that Hodgson has actually lost a couple of positions in this lap. Let's see if he's gonna lose yet another one to Kyle Streikarts. Streikarts coming very hard at him, gonna have a good run heading into Blanchimont, of course. It's gonna be difficult to follow in the toe of another car. But if anyone can do it, it is Kyle Streikarts. We've seen him be quite feisty, but in a good way in the past. He can certainly see an overtaking opportunity. He can nose it out and he can maybe get a good run, especially as Hodgson actually missed the apex a little bit here, allowing Streikarts to maybe get a chance. No, he's not gonna brake late enough. He braked actually so late that he locked him up, and then Hodgson braked even later, managed to hold it under control, and then they both head to the pit lane for that long haul through the buildings, through the McDonald's food. Gonna get probably a number 9 and double cheeseburger and a bit of fries and maybe a Pepsi.
Well, Stevens has already been through there, and he's gotten his Coke, and he is on his way to his stall. Ross has come in too from the top 4. So that's going to release Stephen Ash to run laps without someone in front of him. And that'll be fascinating to watch if Ash responds next time by. Surprised we're seeing drivers pit as early as they are, because I don't think we're close to the end of the pit window. At least usually we aren't this early in the race.
Well, there's a track also that where drivers maybe want to get out of the deadlock of a battle. Try to see if, I want to get into pit lane at this point. Maybe gonna get themselves some clear air away from all the battles. But Spa also uses plenty of fuel. This track has a lot of elevation change, a lot of fast corners, and few positions you can save fuel if you're skilled here. But not all of these drivers know the tricks of Spa like the pros do. So, they don't quite know where to save the fuel, and for some of these drivers, they don't even have to draft to justify saving the fuel. And maybe they are just in a bit of a different strat and feel like, bit of a different strategy. And they feel like, maybe I should be pitting right now. And even more pit stops coming in at this point.
About half the field has finished theirs at this point.
Oh,
and Modov is going to take his.
Yeah, Rame as well. So they're going to have to come into the pit lane. Stephen Ash too, heading to the pit lane. I'm expecting Rubilar to do the same here. Yeah. So all of our leaders are pitting. Now I'm just watching, while you're watching the guys for the leaders work some fuel into those cars. I'm going to watch if anyone managed to save a full lap. It's not going to be easy. It's a 4.5 mile lap, remember.
Ross is our highest pitter right now. He's down in 15th, and he's roughly a minute and a half, or a minute and some behind the leaders, minute and 10 roughly it seems. So Modov still trying to get to his stall, that long trundling journey down the hill. Stevens and Ross probably not close enough to try and jump him, but they could gain time. It all depends on how this goes for others.
And Michael M. Ross, he has already pitted. He's heading on towards Blanchimont. He knows that the guy's gonna have to pit. And he actually got a little bit of a wiggle going middle of Blanchimont here. I like this man's driving. I like this man's driving a lot, but he's not gonna be anywhere close enough to pick up those leading positions. Still, he was on P number 3 before the pit stop, so his fight, it's not with the leaders, it is with the likes of Stephen Ash.
Most everybody 16 to 20 seconds, and Modov about 17 seconds stationary, getting his fuel. Rave, same thing, but it's Stephen Ash who was fighting with Ross. So there's Ross on screen right now in the Ford. Ash is actually just over the top of the hill, and he's starting to get the speed up. But again, he's not going to have momentum the same way that Ross is. So he'll close in and close in, but the track position is what's going to be important. Does Ash have the speed to stay ahead of Ross? And the answer is yes.
Yes, and by a country mile too, there's about 2 seconds between these cars. Now, of course, the tires do get a little bit cold on the pit lane because you're driving a full minute very, very slowly, and then you're stationary for a while as well. Now, Ross has gotten his tires already warm, whereas Stephen Nash is gonna have to get used to the car on used tires and a full tank of fuel once again. And let me tell you, that's not an easy feeling at Spa, especially not when the track temp has gone up a little bit from the start of the race. And I believe you have something to say about Stevens here. Just a tiny little point.
His move to not go into the pits when Cal Quinn did, well, it paid off. He's jumped him, and actually by a decent margin. It's the 2.5 between them right now. So Jesse Stevens now up to 7th place, and it's Christian Eisler next on his list. Stevens, though, remember, he started this thing in 6th place, so you'd only be getting back to where he began. And considering at one point he was looking at the lead, I don't think he'll be too happy about things.
No, not at all, but he only has himself to blame. A little bit too anxious at times to get those moves done. Needs to work on his consistency and especially his mental game. It can be easy to get called into a battle and, into the heat of the battle, you just want to get past, right now. But, patience, young Padawan, that would pay off. And patience doesn't include things like looking at the team name of CL Punto and taking it as a hint on how to overtake them.
Now, I also just noticed, I think Ken Huber got a few spots. If I'm seeing correctly, he's up to 14th, and I don't think he was there before. Because I want to say he was behind Thurman and Lowendick and those guys, but now he is ahead of them. You can't miss him. Huber's the one in the bright yellow Ferrari, being chased by Thurman in the green and black machine, and Lowendick in the gray and blue.
Yeah, he's being chased by Thurman, being chased by Lowendick, being chased by Strikehardt, Hodgson as well. Hodgson is a little bit further away, but this is going to be a great battle. Huber going a little bit of a wide line through the source. So, some people prefer a wide line pair. You get a little bit of a better exit if you manage to nail it. Some people take it tight, right in the wall. And, so interesting point about the wall. Separating the endurance pit from the track. That is usually thought of as a non-factor, but I've seen an endurance race where 2 cars from the same team in the broadcast split managed to end their races on that same wall. And yes, a wall on a straight line, as incredible as it is. And meanwhile, Levendick's gonna get mighty close.
About something there on Brett Thurman, but couldn't quite get his nose in, so he's gonna stay patient. He's got 20 minutes left. While that does sound like a lot, and it is a decent amount of time, remember, these laps are 2 minutes and 15 seconds long to get around. So he's got all of, just under 10 laps, 9 or 8 laps left to go?
Yeah, 8 runs up the Camel Straight, in other words.
Boy, he is hounding him now. Lowendick is just getting very close behind at a few points. Seems to be usually on the straights. Coming off the corner, look at him start to gain once again. So we ride on board with Huber looking back at this battle.
Yeah, and he's just gonna be hoping that Ted is gonna be a little bit more aggressive to get through on Brett Thurman, because again, I've said this so many times and we're gonna say it so many times again. As 2 cars battle, it's usually for the benefit of the guy ahead of the battle, so he can get away, a benefit for the guys behind so they can get into that battle. Strikehardt is gonna be watching this with quite some curiosity indeed. See if Levendick's gonna make a move heading into the bus stop. I don't think he can. He's nowhere near close enough. He looks into it though, and that's a great thing because he's not only keeping Strikehardt honest behind him, but he's also keeping Thurman honest ahead. And keeping Thurman watching those mirrors, that means he can't concentrate on his racing line. He's gonna have to take some compromises in terms of the braking spots, and he is going to lose a bit of focus on the driving and instead concentrate on the battling, as I believe for P number 6 show, it is getting hot between Christian Eisler and Jesse Stevens.
Jesse had a decent run coming up the Kimmel Straight. And there you can see back pulled in and only 0.3 of a second. Right on board with Stevens right now. Down the hill off the highest part of the track into Rivage. Oh, and we've had a problem back farther down in the field. Looks like James Hebb with an off. I'm trying to see if he had anybody else involved in this.
Yeah, meanwhile, Eisler and Stevens still gonna battle. Stevens is faster through here as well. And even through Pohon, it's a very difficult corner to follow someone through. He's being able to do so very well on Eisler. Let's see if he's gonna go through on here. Not quite, but once again, braking very late. And a couple of points about Pohon, that corner you just saw, the double left-hander. You know, it almost feels when you're driving through it, it almost feels like it has negative camber when you're going through it. It is much more devious corner. It's downhill. You can so easily run right there. And that's a corner where you really feel the dirt air the most.
I don't know if Christian really is the Iceman, but if I was in his shoes, I would be pretty nervous. I would not be very cool because Stevens he is so close behind him, and he's really flirting with disaster. This time he's actually going to go for it, and he sends it in deep down into the bus stop. No fight from Christian Eisler. He lets Stevens through, and that puts him up into 6th finally.
And that was well done by Jesse Stevens. I've been criticizing him for some good reasons in these past 2 races, but that was a well done move. He was aggressive, but he did the aggressive clean dive. He left the guy room on the outside, and he braked very late, but he made sure, okay, if I'm gonna commit to the apex, I just have to, be ahead of him, and he even left room there in case Eisler was going to brake late.
I'm not sure if this is going to stay where it is, though, because Eisler looks very quick in a straight line, and he's in that Ford, which we know is fast as he goes to the outside. Stevens trying to defend in the Bimmer. Can he hold him off? He's going to have to go a long way on the brakes. He does, and he doesn't overshoot the corners. Amazing stuff.
I don't know why Eisler let up on that crossover, but meanwhile behind them, the Huber battle pack is also coming to the end of the Camel Straight. We got Ken Huber, Brett Turman, Ted Lowendick, as well as Kyle Streichhardt. And I think Turman's gonna go for a move. Yes, he is. He was so close of the extra Flasaurus. He's gonna brake late. Huber's gonna look for that crossover, but seeing nothing there really. I don't know why drivers are not taking more chances there. And there was a car off as well. That's Mac Miller.
Mac Miller.
Yeah.
So he falls down to 17th. We're watching from on board just behind Huber there. I'm checking if it's worth a replay here on Mac.
No, it's not. No, it's not. He just lost it on the entry of the corner, on the curb, all by himself, and took a lazy half spin, made a good save of not making it a full spin, and then just did a good job of waiting for the battle pack to come by, survived with his cars intact, his ego not so much, and I wonder when he comes to that boot next time on the pit lane, if he's gonna actually order a Big Mac for some luck.
Well, I mean, when something like that happens, you have to be humble and let go your ego. So it seems that he's going to lose a few positions and have to try and finish and reassess what's happened there. 14 minutes left to go. Up at the top, or actually not at the top, just an update on a driver that I talked about before. James Hebb did have a self-spin earlier. That's what caused him to be off track. No real drama there. He's continuing on in 26th himself. Meanwhile, Huber still giving us some action as he's going to be under attack from Lowendick down into the bus stop chicane. And he might lose 2 because here comes Strykars looking for it. Looks for the over-under, but it doesn't quite execute.
And Strykars was really aggressive on the extra Blanchimont. He just said, you know what, screw the track limits. I gotta go fast, and just went way wide on Blanchimont. That's why he got such a good run. I don't think the man lifted at all into that corner. Just went through the tarmac runoff, and that's an ongoing debate about between racing fans about tarmac runoff. And that's one of the reasons why I think they're maybe not such a hot idea. But either way, Kyle Strykars is now hounding Ken Huber onto the end of the Camel Straight, and that's gonna be a slam dunk if he breaks late enough. Yeah, and I think Huber was actually lifting. Huber wanted no part of that fight whatsoever. He knows that he's not feeling too happy about that fighting right now. And you can see why, because look at the gap that Lowendick, Thurman and Lowendick and Strikeharts have now managed to gain on Tim Huber now that he lost those positions, because he's all of a sudden lost like 2-3 seconds to Brett Thurman.
Yeah, I'd say that he kind of knew that the jig was up. Once they had caught him and gotten a good run, he might as well just let it go and run his own race. Might be a good call in the end, because he's settled into 16th at this point, which is still 4 positions up from where he started. So not a bad day. We are left with 28 cars still running currently. And the top of them all is Carl Modoff. It's up to 8 seconds now over Justin Rame. Curiously, Stephen Ash has closed in on Justin quite a bit. We haven't looked up here because there's really just not been a lot of action within the top 5. But Ash looks like he's picked up towards the end.
Yeah, Justin Rame lost a lot of time on lap 19. He did a 2:15.2, whereas Stephen Ash did a 2:14.4, so that's where he gained almost a full second. And I'm looking at the lap times last time by Justin Rame, 2:14.5, Stephen Ash 2:14.3, and he's currently sitting just under 2 seconds behind Justin Rame. And the draft range, that's going to start roughly from 1.5 seconds. That's where he starts to gain benefits into that long Kemmel straight. He's going to catch up even faster. So, you know, Stephen Ash, he's not out of the P2 battle just quite yet.
I think he fancies a second place if possible. He's been having some good runs this season. He's up to 5th in the points, and this will continue to allow him to climb, considering the day that Stevens has had, and we know the day that Mies has had well. Meanwhile, back to this battle for 6th.
Yeah, Jesse Stevens has lost a bit of time to run behind Kristen Eisler. I was waiting for Stevens to maybe run away with it, but he's not been able to do that so far. With that said, they are still lapping faster than Michael M. Ross in the 4th place, as is actually Nicolas Rubilar. Eisler is close, Cal Queen is fairly close, as well as his Pfeffer. So, you know, that's gonna be a hefty one if Stevens makes a mistake. And with all love, that's not, you know, that's not something, a safe position, and Jesse Stevens, it hasn't been too much of a factor this season. But I want Stevens to prove me wrong so bad here and bring that 6th place home. But he's not gonna have it easy. Eisler, we know him as the Iceman. He's fast here. He's driving a Ford GTE which runs very well at Spa, and he also has Cal Guin behind him as well. But another point to consider, as I was about to say, Rubilar is catching up very fast onto Michael M. Ross.
You want to get a good replay. Huber had an incredible fight with Strikears, and then poor Strikears had to continue that fight with Mac Miller. This was down through Puhan, if we want to see this one, because side-by-side action, not something you often see in this double apex left-hander. Watch this.
Wow. And Strikeart went a little bit wide on Jack X corner, and then, you know, he was on the outside, Huber on the inside, got a little bit too far to the curb, and absolute massive wiggle tear. That's so difficult to save because you don't usually cut that curb, and here you see why. It's really gonna upset the car, but he did very well to survive with that too wide. Strikehart's lost a lot of time, but he did a good job of braking there as well, and that allowed Mac Miller to get into that battle as well and get through.
I wonder if Strikears maybe got a phantom 4X from that one, because he's come into the pit lane, and I suspect that he is serving some sort of penalty here, because that was not a contact that merited any sort of damage, if there was.
Yeah, there is no damage, and remember a couple of laps ago I said about Strikehart's really running Blanchimont wide? Well, that's what's going to happen when you run too many of those corners wide.
He thought he had a few to play with, and turned out he didn't. So I guess that's the risk you run when you try to make those sort of moves. Meanwhile, we're back to Eisler, Stevens, and Cal Quinn. All of them all together here on the track through Fanyes. Jesse Stevens back up to where he began this race with not much of a hope of catching Rubilar. If anything, we were talking about it earlier, just trying to keep those gears keep these mirrors from finding them, building more. Now we saw Kyle Strykar's in and out. He's back out on the track. He did serve that penalty, I believe. Go.
Yeah, but also on P number 11 now, it is very close between Duino and Romig at this point. It's been close for a couple of laps. Romig last time by 3 tenths faster, and he is catching very rapidly up to David Duino. And now
Eisler and Calquin. Eisler and Calquin have had something happen, and Pfeffer is involved. This is in the bus stop chicane. What happened here? I look away for once.
Yeah, Eisler locked up his brakes behind Stevens. He ran wide. Calquin took the normal racing line, and Eisler was on the inside. I don't think Calquin was considering the fact that his teammate was on the inside and holding in there. He was expecting him to lift, I think, and Calquin just turned into the corner. And that's some teammate on teammate action you don't want to see.
Yeah, that's going to make for an awkward debrief afterwards. You can see he thought, okay, this is going to be an easy position, and then suddenly he's facing the wrong side of his teammate's car. So that shuffles them down, and Pfeffer is able to continue on into 8th and is actually caught up with Calquin. This is the battle we see on screen right now. That is Pfeffer right there in the black Porsche.
And Pfeffer is going to use his chance very well at this point. He's going to have to, because he knows Calquin must be shook up. He saw probably the remains of the 2 Punto cars there and knows roughly what happened between them. And Pfeffer thinks, I already had Eisler. I wonder if I'm going to make it all the way up to 7th here. But it's not going to be easy. Also some cloud cover on track at these last 2 tracks. Going to make it a little bit easier on these worn out tires still. Tire wear, it's always an issue with these races. 1 hour long here, and Pfeffer, well, he's losing a bit of time through these fast corners, as you can expect. They are fast, and it's gonna be very difficult to follow through, but, you know, Joe, I'm fancying Pfeffer's chances here. I really am.
I think that he's got the bit between his teeth. Just an update. We had an accident with Romig. He actually got into the back of Duino, just punted him off at Lacombe, and I think we got a replay here. Well, here it is right here. Just, oh man, he lifted that Ford off the ground. That was more than a punt.
Yeah, I'd classify that definitely as a more punt. You know, it's more like, I don't know. Give the guy a meal, you know, before that. Take him to a nice restaurant, treat him to a movie out, and, you know, be really romantic before you just shove it right in like that. That's just not something I want to do.
We are a family show, just to remind you. Horatio Calquin still dealing with Christopher Pfeffer for that 7th position as they come over Radillion. And I don't think he's going to be close enough. Hopefully he won't do the same thing that we just saw between those other 2 into Lacombe.
Ooh, and Michael and Ross actually are in a good battle here as well. I think, yeah, Michael and Ross just lifted into Lacombe.
Oh, and that allows Rubelar into 4th. Now,
yeah, that was a weird
give that one up.
Yeah, because Ross was just coming into the onto the straight, you know, and then he just, as soon as Rubelar pulled alongside, Ross braked really early. Rubelar was late on the brakes, granted, because BMW brakes are good. But Ross, I feel, could have been a little bit more feisty about that one. Instead, he's losing a lot of ground right now, and I don't think he's happy with the tires at all. I don't think he's happy because he's lost over half a second on the infield here.
Well, Rubelar from 7th on the grid, now up to P4. Ash is the next one. Don't think he's going to be able to get onto the podium because it's about 3.5 seconds up the road, but he is streaking away from Ross, so Ross apparently knew what he was doing and letting him go.
Oh, Romig.
Because there's a lot more speed for Nicholas. What's going on with Romig?
He went past his teammate on the inside into Buffon, and that was a nice one.
Take a look at the replay here.
Yeah, and you know, there might have been some cooperation there, but still in the Buffon, that's not the most common passing spot. Romig just went to the inside after the exit of Jackie's corner, and I think he said to his teammate, you know what, I'm gonna have that one. But that was still well executed. Although, one minor consideration, if I want through on my teammate, I make sure they give me the outside line, because that meant Romig lost about a couple of tenths taking the inside line into the corner instead of the preferred racing line. But still that made it look more like an overtake. So I don't know. Maybe that's gonna fake that they're actually racing instead of cooperating in the stream for the broadcast. Maybe. Maybe they're actually racing. Who knows?
Could be. And they're still really close together, so this could erupt into something more. As they come off of the bus stop and down towards La Source one more time. That's Romig you see at the front of the trio. Lowendick behind, and that's Smack Miller still working on a recovery. He's got up to 15th and seems to have pretty good pace because he's all over the back of Ted right now.
Yeah, and he's gonna get a great run up the hill, and you're gonna see a great view here as well as he runs up to a roost, the wall of Warillon, and then onto the long tunnel straight. Romig, Lowendick, Mac Miller's just pounding him down. He wants that one more position, and he's gonna look to the inside. He's too far, but he's just gonna, let Ted Lowendick know that he is there. Don't just focus on the battle ahead, you also have to look behind. And it's been a battle that's been raging pretty much all race long, and it's been a good one, Joe. Shame that all of these battles, they're gonna have to come to an end soon.
Yep, because we're going to get the white flag this time by for the 948 of Karl Modoff, who's got a handy 10-second lead. So we'll leave this battle for the moment as we watch our leader come up to the bus stop. And again, as we got a car off in front, that's Lawson Christie just staying out of the way. But again, the finish line is different from the start line, so you're going to see it right as he crosses here. Wait for that moment, and that is where the race will finish.
Yeah, it is, and it can confuse some drivers as it is so early. It's the same situation with Monza. You don't expect the finish line to be at the start of the straight, You expect it to be after the grid, but instead it's at the start. And meanwhile, Pfeffer here, he's having quite a peppery of a race. His surname means pepper, and he's having a good one.
Yeah, but his connection's not looking good. So if he goes on the attack on Cal Quinn, it's going to be a little sketchy between them. So it's not just drivers. I kind of wanted to make sure I got that mention in case Bill Zahn is still watching. And want to make sure, Bill, you know where the race ends here. No, that's a tough one for you. Up and over Eau Rouge. Cal Quinn pulls away from Pfeffer, so he's certainly not going to get a chance up into Lacoon this time. 666 well clear. Meanwhile, it's still exciting between 13th, 14th, and 15th. Romig, Lowendick, and Miller, who we were watching before we jumped away to the leader.
Yeah, and it's we're also gonna see P11 and 12 before them head into a Rouge Warillon. Remember, that's Thurman, that's Duino, gonna be very close. Duino using all of the track and then some. He's gonna have to look to the outside here, yep, and he's gonna get a good run. He's gonna be ahead heading into Lacombe. Can he close the door? Not quite, because Thurman's gonna come back at him, but Thurman's gonna be braking a little bit earlier. Let's see behind him what's gonna happen. Miller not gonna get good enough of a run, so Lowendick and Romig gonna hold on to those positions for now. And those are the closest battles on track here, Joe, on the last lap. So we'll be keeping one eye on our leader. Don't you worry about that. We'll give him his due. He's had a perfect race so far. But Duino, Thurman, Romig, Lowendick, Miller, those have been quite entertaining of Winterpool.
But we're gonna hop over here to Karl Modoff because with one last apex to go out of the bus stop corner, a little bit of a wiggle and fun, he's gonna take the victory here today at Spa the 948. A dominant performance.
Truly magnificent. Hats off to Karl Modoff. He was absolutely on form today and really driving very well, very solid. Was considering his tires, considering everything, and yet another win for Modoff. Meanwhile, behind them, it doesn't look like those guys who provided us with all that action are going to spare any for the last lap.
Yep, Cal Quinn managed to take it over Pfeffer, but what about between Duino and Thurman? Now that Duino's gotten by, Thurman, yep, he's not going to go for it.
In the last corner.
Well, He got awful close to him. He wanted it. It just wasn't quite there. And Romig's going to come out in front of that trio that we watched behind them. Then from there on down, there's just nobody close enough for a fight, sadly, as everybody's kind of spread apart through the field. So the last of the 23 on the lead lap.
Guys,
Dave
Peterson just ran off from the 21st position on the last lap. He just locked it up on the braking, and he's going to lose a couple of positions off the back of that one.
Almost looked like a hardware failure at first, but yeah, I think you're right. I think he did lock the wheels up and just kind of lost control.
I wonder if he dropped a tire, actually.
Could be the case. We'll try and figure that one out as we go to break, because after this we'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. If you stick around on screen, you'll see all the upcoming races here on GSRC. Welcome back to Spa-Francorchamps. We just watched round 4 in the PRL GTE Sportscar Series, and Karl Modov makes it 3 wins out of 4 rounds. Justin Rame, though, tried to keep him honest. It just eventually started to fall away. And even though he gained 1 position from the start, that second place is probably going to feel like a best that he can get sort of situation. Stephen Ash managed 3rd and rounded out the podium ahead of Nicholas Rubelar, who had some action today. 4th place for him. Michael Ross with a top 5 was followed by Jesse Stevens, who at one moment was riding in the top 3 and then made a mistake and found himself some more problems later down the line. Horatio Calquin finished in 7th with Christopher Pfeffer in 8th today. Christian Eisler wound up in Q9 and Ignacio Fredes was 10th.
David Duino 11th, Brett Herman 12th, Sean Romig 13th, Ted Lowendick 14th, Mac Miller 15th, and Ken Kuber 16th, and they were a battle pack all race long. Inseparable practically, but it's gonna be Duino finishing in the first among those guys, 11th in total. Jason Hodgson is 17th, Kenny Rodriguez 18th, Sean Duhamel 19th, and Donald Olson rounding out your top 20.
Jean-Marc Tremblay was 21st, unfortunately starting 12th, so that was a bit of a bad one for him. Kyle Strykar's 22nd. And Dave Peterson, who was classified in 23rd, I believe lost some of his positions at the end due to a penalty from too many incidents. We need to check on that, but from what we can tell, that the evidence seems to be pointing there. James LeBlanc was 24th and last on the lead lap. From there on down, it was drivers that seemed to have some woes today and did not come away with the result they wanted. But we have our winner ready to talk to us. Karl Modov joins us in the booth once again. And Carl, I have to admit, it looked like a bit of calm racing at the start, even though you were very close behind the leader for a while. Once you got past him, it almost looked like it happened with ease.
Hey, what's up, guys? Definitely not. Spa's a hard track, and with the off tracks, you really gotta stay focused. But yeah, I was definitely expecting more of a battle there. Just unfortunate for Rodrigo. I don't know what happened there. And then Jesse, I thought there was going to be a 4 or 5 car battle. It wouldn't have spread out if there was more cars battling for the lead there. So I was kind of going into it expecting a dogfight. The Fords were really fast on the straightaway, so I didn't think we'd even be able to. I thought it'd be Eisler and Fredis and Colquhoun and all the guys. I thought it was going to be quite a battle. So I was surprised 10 laps in to have a comfortable lead. Not complaining. That was a great race and great for the championship, but definitely not what I was expecting going into it.
Now, talk to us about the start, because we thought that the start was going to go after La Source. Were you told by the stewards that you could accelerate before you got to the hairpin?
Yeah, it's always really tough when they run this endurance layout of a track. And they told me that it was up to the pole sitter. So typically it tells you get ready going green only, 4 seconds or so. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's very soon before you can actually green flag flies. And it told me that we were getting ready to go green, when we were coming off the final corner. So I thought it was going to wait green before we got to La Source. So I wanted to wait for as much of the field as possible to come out of the final chicane so they have to start the race there. But did want to get the race kind of started and not get caught off guard there.
Interesting. So it caught us off guard, if we're honest. We were not expecting it to happen then. Regardless, this was 3 out of 4. Can it be 4 out of 5 when we go to Watkins Glen? That seems like it's been happy hunting ground in the past for you.
Yeah, I really love driving Watkins Glen. It's a great track, and we'll see. I'm going to definitely aim to try and win another one and make it 4 out of 5 and start this off as good as I can this season. But, everyone's going to be tough. The Fords are, really strong right now, and I expect Jesse and Rodrigo to be back full force. So looking forward to it. Should be a good round. And then, the one last thing about the starts, it's hard because during the regular races in the IMSA with the DP cards, you always start the race right there. So when you don't start, you're like itching to go. You feel like you're messing up. So, it's hard to wait till after La Source to start the race.
a driver with an itchy throttle foot. I mean, no big surprise there. Thanks for coming and talking to us, Carl, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you more in the season.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate the broadcast. PRL, congrats to Justin Ream. That's my teammate this season, so that's our first 1-2 finish. Hopefully we get a few more of those. And thanks, everyone.
Yes, and speaking of Justin, we sadly won't get to talk to him because apparently his headset's not working today. So big congrats to Justin as well from us, as Ossian is going to be talking to the driver who finished behind him, Stephen Ash.
Yes, hello, Stephen. Hello, and it's another good result from you out here today. You started fourth, finished 1 position ahead of that on the podium. Tell us about the early parts of your race, first and foremost.
Yeah, how's it going, guys? I feel like I had a pretty good race today. The pace was there, but I wasn't quite nearly as fast as the top guys. The start of the race was really interesting because Rodrigo Means, unfortunately, wasn't able to grid up, so I actually got promoted to the front row. Starting next to Carl. Had an all right start. Kind of missed the gun a little bit on the front straight, and it allowed Justin to get alongside me. And then I lost a couple positions to him and Stevens on the first couple laps. Had a small battle with Nicholas. Had unfortunately a little netcode incident there, sent him off the track, so I apologize to Nicholas for that. But yeah, then just got behind Michael Ross and just tried to run good pace, save some fuel, save some tires, and ended up with a great result.
Yeah, tell us about running behind Ross, because we saw him struggling with the tires on the later part of the race. Did you think he was running the tires too hard? Do you think that you were winning the conservation race there behind him, or were you also winning on the pure raw pace department?
Yeah, I think that was the strategy there. I was really just trying to stick with him in his slipstream. I mean, the Ford's so fast in the straight line, so you can really gain a lot of time following around and, just trying to save tires, trying to save fuel. And I think you're exactly right. That's exactly what happened to Michael. I think his tires definitely started to fade in the end. I was fortunate enough to jump him in the pit stop because I had saved him a lot more fuel. And then it was just kind of managing the gap, and it just seemed like he lost the pace in the second half of the race there and wasn't able to catch up to me. And in the last couple laps of the race there, I really had to do a lot of fuel saving. I was very marginal on fuel and really sputtered across the line in the end. But yeah, very happy with the result today.
Well, you did not finish the first race of the season, but despite that, you're sitting on the 5th place in the championship standings now. With the unfortunate situation of Rodrigo missing the start, you are gonna climb up from there. We headed to Watkins Glen next week. What do you think about your chances there? Do you think you're gonna be bringing home another podium, maybe?
I mean, I certainly hope so. I'm 3 podiums in a row now, so I'm on a pretty good roll. Did a little testing at Watkins Glen last night. The Porsche's looking all right there, but I think the Ford's going to dominate there again. But we'll see. We'll see what the pace is like, and yeah, we'll tune in next Tuesday and see if we can make it 4 podiums in a row and maybe even a win.
Well, thank you, Stephen. It was a pleasure talking to you, and hope we can talk with another podium next week.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Have a good one.
So with that, we head back to Joe, who I believe has some other things to say besides driver interviews.
Yes, we do. As always, we have sponsors to thank for this series who've been very generous throughout its history. Simulation Motorsports Affinity is the first one. If you want to find out how you can get involved with the sim racing world around the world, the globe itself, check out simsa.net. And then, of course, also Butt Kicker. TheButtKicker.com is where you can find their products to help immerse yourself in the realism of racing all the more. So give them a check as well. Thanks to iRacing for putting us on IESN. Make sure and subscribe to the channel. It's very easy to do so. We always say it, but I promise all you got to do is click one button, just that big red subscribe button there below here on YouTube. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Ossian, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. We also have social media. Our Twitter is @GSR Channel, Facebook is Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram is GSRC_gram. Make sure and check out our merchandise store and show us a little bit of support and get some swag in the process. The link is in the description below, and while you're down there, of course, make sure and hit that subscribe button because you're already there anyways. The next race is going to be at Watkins Glen. That'll be Tuesday, April 14th at 9 p.m. Eastern. Another classic. We've been on a tear here with very popular tracks. But we have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.